Door County's most iconic lighthouse was built on Cana Island.
This lighthouse has been protecting the shores of Lake Michigan for more than 150 years.
Cana Island is an excellent location to learn about the history of Door County. The 8.7-acre island offers spectacular views.
Your visit begins at a causeway across from the island. Even from here, there are some great views of Lake Michigan. You can choose to walk across if the lake levels are low enough, or hop on a wagon pulled by a tractor.
The ride is a bit bumpy, but it is also very fun. You are often given the opportunity to take a selfie at the halfway point.
On the island, we met Hal Wilson, who taught us a lot about this area. He was able to give us information about the causeway and the wagon ride.
My name's Hal Wilson. I'm the site manager here, as I said before, for the Door County Maritime Museum. I'm also a retired Coast Guardsman. I went to a school to work on these things, so I'm a real lighthouse keeper. I have a piece of paper. You graduated and are now a real lighthouse keeper. I have a piece of paper next to it, so it says it on my name tag, and it's true. I really am a lighthouse keeper. I used to work on them. You rode across on the big wagon. That wagon was going through 3.5 feet of water 2 years ago. Right now, we have a little bit of water on the causeway, ankle deep, because of the wind is pushing the water toward us. When the wind shifts or more evaporation happens, that will stop and it'll be dry again. But 2 years ago, and for the last 5 years, we've had water on the causeway. This is the first year where the causeway will be completely dry in 7 years. They started running the wagon 2 years before I started, so we've been running the wagon for 8 years now. And now it's just more for fun than anything. It's become something fun to do. But it was necessary. In 2021, we were closed 3 of the 6 months that we were open due to high lake levels. We couldn't get the equipment across. The waves were too high, and even the big tractor and the big wagon couldn't cross. If we got over, when we had 3.5 feet of water out there, if we got over a 2-foot wave on the causeway, we couldn't cross. And the wind will generate that with no problem. We also get a pattern here called refraction, where the wave comes in from the south, hits the beach on the south side. The island basically grabs it and throws it around, and the 2 waves meet on the causeway and cross over each other. So we used to get these big rooster tails that would shoot up onto my drivers, and so we'd have to stop driving. I was going through an alternator every 6 weeks and a starter about every month for 2 years, because the water was eating them up on that big tractor. And we've been leasing that tractor. We'll own that tractor this year. We've been leasing it for 5 years.
You pay for your admission at the Interpretive Center. Here you can learn more about the history of Cana Island. You can also find clothing, souvenirs, and more. The center was part of a multi-phase renovation project.
We just finished a 7-year restoration. It was a 4-year restoration. It turned into 7 years. We started out in 2016. They did the restoration of the outside of the lighthouse and the outside of the keeper's home. They also built the new bathrooms, the concrete bathrooms we have here at the island. The following year, they rebuilt the oil house, the 2-seat privy or outhouse, and they picked the barn up, moved it, built the new foundation, and put it back down. And then we skipped a year because of money, because of the hurricanes and everything, and we built the Interpretive Center and the garage that's over in the parking lot. Then we skipped a year because of COVID, and last year we finished the full restoration of the inside of the house. Cost about $7.5 million total. Emerald Construction did most of the work out here. That was a company that was hired to do the restoration work along with other subcontractors. And it was operated, the work was done with the Door County Parks Department, who physically own Cana Island and the structures, and the Door County Maritime Museum and Lighthouse Preservation Society that have been involved here since the early 1970s. The museum has a contract with the county to manage and operate the facilities during the summer months, and I'm the lighthouse keeper here for the Maritime Museum. So I manage and operate the island. The 6 months were open from May 1st until October 31st.
We visited the lighthouse in early May.
6 months we're open. We'll see between 45 and 50,000 people. We're the second most visited place in Door County. And of that, the majority of those people are here from the months of mid-June till mid-September. So you're out here at a perfect time. The bugs are a little annoying, but you get the place to yourself. You can walk up as you want. By July, there'll be an hour and a half to 2 hour wait some days on the weekends to climb the tower. And we do that in groups of 20. So, and like everybody else here in Door County, we have staff shortage. So if somebody's looking, retired, they're looking for something to do for fun for a day or two, they are paid staff positions. And you can work out here with us and be a lighthouse keeper for a day or two. And like I said, we'll go through quite a few people. The groups that go to the tower go up in groups of 20, and we put up about 3 groups an hour to give you an idea what it takes to move everybody through here. Most days we've ever seen since I've been here, we've had a couple 850 days in August, where 850 or so people come. Most of the time it's down around 500 on the weekends, 200, 250 during the weekdays, starting mid-June. Basically when school gets out to when school starts.
The only drawback to going in May is the bugs.
I've heard the term midget. They call them, locals call them bay flies. We get them through the month of May, early June, and then they die off. They live for about 24 hours, and they're born, they make more, they die, and they keep doing that for about 4 to 6 weeks, and then they just completely die off. We don't have them. But they'll get so bad at times that you can't see 100 yards from them because there's so many of them in the air. Especially depends on if there's a lot of wind or not. These folks are doing the Cana wave. This is where you walk along and knock the bugs out of your face. We call it the Cana wave.
No bugs inside the buildings. We asked Hal what year the lighthouse was built.
The light was built in 1869. The lighthouse tender anchored behind the island in April, and by December they had the home and the tower, the brick lighthouse, built, and the light on it. They lit it for operation in 1870. The lighthouse itself is actually made of the same Milwaukee Cream City brick that the home is. But that brick deteriorated too fast, so in 1902, they encased the brick in the metal you see now. So it's actually a brick lighthouse with a very thick and heavy siding on it. The aluminum or the steel is the siding to protect the brickwork.
As you enter the keeper's home, you end up in the kitchen. This room was originally a woodshed. The room to your right is an insulated root cellar. It stored potatoes, vegetables, and other food supplies.
This room was converted into a pantry and sink area. The window above the sink was added. A hand-operated pump was used to lift water from the cistern in the basement. The crawl space also helped with flooding.
A wood-fired stove was added to the new kitchen. The room at the top of the stairs was the original kitchen. This room became a dining room.
The room to the right has always been the living room. Here you can find items that were typically found in early 1900s homes.
The first keeper, William Jackson, brought his family. His wife, Caroline, was appointed assistant keeper. Their 5 kids had many chores on the island in addition to their schoolwork.
The work at a lighthouse was never complete. The home has several bedrooms for much needed rest.
A room once used to store oil became the keeper's office. The only light came from the window or an oil lamp. Records kept had weather conditions, visitors, and the number of ships that passed.
In this office you can see an old-style telephone. A telephone line was run to the island in 1920. You can see the location of one of the poles outside.
The assistant keepers lived upstairs. Often single young men, here they had their own kitchen, living room, and a couple smaller rooms.
The lighthouse tower can be accessed from within the house. The overall height of the tower is 89 feet. The 97-step circular cast iron staircase leads to the watchroom. There are windows along the way.
The best views can be seen at the top. You can walk all the way around the top of the tower. You can see the grounds of Cana Island. Beautiful views of Lake Michigan can be seen here. Photos of the mainland can also be taken to the north and south.
Hal told us how the light is produced.
We have the original third order Fresnel lens made in Paris, France. Called a Fresnel because the gentleman's name that invented them was Augustus Fresnel. It uses a 250 watt halogen light bulb on 12 volts, and the lantern itself takes that light bulb that's about this big and shines that beam out to the curvature of the earth at just about 18 nautical miles, a little over 18 nautical miles.
Still shining today?
It will shine at night. There's a sensor on the east side of the tower that reads what's called the ambient light, and it tells the machine to come on, the light to come on a half hour before sunset, and it tells it to shut off about a half hour before sunrise. And it's, again, depending on the amount of light there is.
There were multiple fuels used to create the light throughout the years. The hexagon-shaped oil house was built in 1890 using stone found on the island.
There were 2 spots where mineral oil fuel tanks were installed on the island. A pipe connected the fuel tank to the oil house.
Surprisingly, the first type of fuel used on Cana Island was lard.
What they would do is they had these cans about this big, about that thick, and it was full of a substance. They would pack it full of a substance kind of similar to Crisco, you know, that muddy kind of putty-like stuff. And then we had a small coal stove up there, and they would heat that up until it turned to liquid. They would put it inside of the light, and it would burn for a few hours, and then they would swap them. So every 2 to 4 hours, depending on weather and things like that, they'd have to go up and rotate it. And they would do that during the boating season or the shipping season, which usually ran till the end of December and opened up again the beginning of March until the steel hull ships. So they shut this lighthouse down for about 3 months. It was very isolated out here. And so they would either leave until around the turn of the century, around 1900, they started staying here year-round because the road made it out to Bailey's Harbor. You could go back. Ships were steel, so they were running later in the season and starting earlier in the season because they were steel hull. But in the 1870s, 80s, 90s, it was mainly wood hull ships. And what you would do is you would pick Cana up at 18 nautical miles coming from Chicago or Milwaukee until you saw the Bailey's Harbor Rangers, because they were built the same year we were. And he would line the 2 lighthouses up in Bailey's Harbor and drive right up the middle and not run aground. And that's why this lighthouse and the 2 ranges were built at the same time. And they replaced an old lighthouse that's now nicknamed the Bird Cages on a small island in Bailey's that was discontinued the year this one was lit.
Electricity was a game changer for lighthouses around the country.
In 1935, the generators were installed on a pad over here and they electrified the light. In 1941, the power lines made it all the way out here from Bailey's Harbor, and the light was fully automated. But 1941, the war was going on, so the keeper stayed here till the end of the war in 1945, and that's when the last keeper left. At the time, they were not only maintaining Cana Island, but this keeper also maintained Eagle Bluff Lighthouse, which was automated, and the Bailey's Harbor Ranges, which were automated also. And they'd been doing that for about 20 years when it shut down, when this light finally shut down. The light is still active. It is still a working lighthouse. Coast Guard comes out once a year and does maintenance on it, and will also come out if something goes wrong and it doesn't work. And so it's still an active, what they call aids to navigation.
Bailey's Harbor has long been an important destination for shipping.
Bailey's Harbor was the first port in Door County, and lumber came out and out of there. They were logging the county heavily at that time. This is why a lot of the northern settlers here in Door County are Norwegian. They came here for logging. In the late 1880s, 1890s, they started moving into the southern parts of Door County, and those were Belgians coming in and Germans, and they came in, they got 40 acres from the government, they had to farm it, and as long as they farmed it, they could keep the land. And so the southern half of the county is heavily farming, the northern half of the county is farming and logging until they logged it pretty much flat, and then moved on, kept going west.
Farming was done on the island as well.
Up until 1945, we actually had 2 barns here. The square area right there, as you first come into the island, was a barn. That was the big barn. They had cows, chickens, pigs. They grew gardens. There were gardens here. Mostly they grew their own food. The lighthouse service and later Coast Guard would give the keeper and the assistant keeper a stipend of food. They would get a year's worth of food. And that was for those 2. So anybody else out here and anything they wanted fresh that wasn't canned or salted, they grew themselves. That's why this was very an isolated place to be up until about around 1900. Before that, the only way to get to a store was to take the boat from the boathouse that used to be on the backside of the island that they took down the same time they took the barn down, and they would go by boat to Bailey's Harbor to get groceries and things. After around 1900, when the power lines and everything came out, the road came also. That's when they started staying here year-round because the kids could get to school and they could go to the store for groceries, and they had buggies and later cars out here.
Ease of access to the island hasn't always been easy. Lake levels have fluctuated over the years.
We are up, technically, because it's the spring. We also have a shift in wind. So in the spring and summer, the winds typically are from the south, which pushes Lake Michigan toward us. And with the rain, the snow melting, and the spring rains, the lake has come up. We will continue to come up until around mid-June, maybe early July, and then we will start the downward cycle again. To give you an idea, the lakes cycle in a 7-year period. They rise and fall over a 7-year period. And they do this. And every 30 years, they peak out. So in 1920, we had very high lake levels. So the wall you see all the way around us here was built in 1920 to 1922 by the keeper to help keep the water out. In 1890, they had the same problem. So what they did is from the barn to the beach, all of the ground you're walking out here, all this grass was brought in by wagon, the dirt. They put in about 1.5 to 3 feet deep of grass and dirt all on this end of the island to raise the level up so the water would stop going in the house. During the Alpena gale, the big storms we had, we actually got water inside the house, and the waves were actually hitting the lighthouse and spray was going over the top. Because you got to remember, there were no trees, there was no wall. All of this ground was basically just rock like you see on the beach, and the lighthouse sat on the beach, basically.
The Great Lakes can be unpredictable. Even with the lighthouse here, shipwrecks have occurred.
We have 5 major shipwrecks here at Cana Island. 3 of them are out in the deep water. We don't talk about them very much. They happened in the mid 1800s. But the 2 main ones here, to the north of us at about a mile, is a wood-hulled steamer called the Frank O'Connor. Frank O'Connor caught fire about 5 miles out. The keeper and his assistant took the boat from here and went out and towed their lifeboat with the people in it back here. The boat drifted in and ran aground and burned to the water line. It was full of high-grade coal used for mainly for trains and things, but they also used it for heating. And pieces of it still wash ashore to this day, and that was in the 1890s. We'll get little shiny pebbles all over the beach, and you pick them up and they're real light, and that's that coal that's been polished from rolling around the bottom. To the south of us was the Barlemagne. The Barlemagne was the last major shipwreck in Door County. She got disoriented in the fog and ran aground on the reef to the south and broke her back. So they weren't able to pull it off, and they ended up cutting it up into pieces. If you go along the beach or the trail, when you get down to the southwest corner of the island, you'll see some cables coming out of the beach. You'll see some bolts and some holes in the rock along the water, and that's where the winches were that held the Barlemagne in place. They cabled it in place between both beaches to hold it so it wouldn't come off the reef while they chopped it up. And that's along with the metal over there. It washes up all the time. It's all from the Barlemagne, which went down in the 1920s. And there's some pictures of it, both ships down in the Interpretive Center.
If you have historical items that you think belong in this lighthouse, please consider donating them.
One of the neat things we're doing here at Cana Island is we are currently furnishing the keeper's dwelling. And the keeper's home is being furnished back to around 1920 because that's when the peak of the island here. Everything was pretty much done. The wall was done, the buildings were done, the lighthouse was active, it was on kerosene at that point. So if you have old furniture from that period or family heirlooms that you're interested in, you can in donating to the home, you're welcome to contact either me here at Cana Island, Hal Wilson, or the Door County Maritime Museum in Sturgeon Bay. And if it's something we think we can use and it fits the design and what we're doing, then we'll be happy to take it off your hands. And it might even have a plaque or something with your name on it. So contact us if you're interested.
Door County is a beautiful place to visit. Be sure to check out this great spot.